Like, hey, I could save you, but I'm not gonna kill you. You can die.
Batman had to save himself. Batman had to save himself.
A true Batman would have saved him, and he would have came. Hello, guys.
Yeah, we're back again.
Hey guys, how are you doing today? This is David
howdy.
Back here again. And, of course, with the howdy of himself.
The king of the monsters himself.
Alec is back here. My best buddy in crime, my partner in crime with the In Defense Of series. And today, our In Defense Of video, if you've been keeping up with our videos, or if you have not, make sure you go check out our last video together.
Like, share, and subscribe, please. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe, please. Yes. And what was our last video?
Batman v Superman In Defense Of the Ultimate Edition, not the theatrical one.
If you've not seen that yet, make sure you go check that out. But in that video, we said that we have a long-awaited video coming up, and it is time to finally review and be in defense of. It's kind of a mixture this time. I think is a little bit.
Yeah, because what we said in the last video was our favorite live-action Batman is Batman Begins. But then as David and I were thinking about what we wanted to do for this video, we had come up with this idea that we liked this movie better than The Dark Knight, which is considered like the classic Batman movie now of all time. Great movie. Great film. However, David and I just happen to believe that this Batman Begins is better, and here is why.
And by the way, let me just say, Katie Holmes is the better Rachel Dawes.
We should start the video off with that. The reason I say that is because Katie Holmes and Christian Bale have this certain on-screen chemistry that you and I we talked about as we were watching the movie. Certain on-screen chemistry that they share, it's sensed. You feel that they love each other, care about each other, the characters, obviously. I just believe Katie Holmes is a better actor as well. When it comes to who Rachel Dawes is to me, I just felt like Katie Holmes had a better presence on screen.
I agree. I feel like they both, Christian Bale and Katie Holmes, like you were saying, their chemistry together I feel like they connected more. And it's nothing as Maggie Gyllenhaal. Like, I think she's an alright actress, she's fine. But I don't know, I just felt like, Rachel Dawes, I'm pretty sure she's not a comic book character, she's a made-up character.
Yeah, she's a made-up character for this trilogy.
Yeah, I feel like that Katie Holmes just completely nails it better. Like, she's more believable. And I get it, she's maybe not as much of a better actress than Maggie Gyllenhaal, but I still feel like as Rachel Dawes, the character, she is more Rachel Dawes. The thing I will say that I didn't like about Maggie Gyllenhaal, she seems a little bit, stuck up, a little bit, sure of herself, and I'm right, all this. But in this one, that one scene where she's with Bruce in the car.
Oh, at the beginning of the movie where he's about to confront Falcone.
These scenes like that, and also the scenes of. Now I know she doesn't write the lines, obviously. She doesn't write the lines, but I feel like her delivery of the lines are so much better than what Maggie Gyllenhaal did.
Especially when she slaps Bruce for when he has the revolver, and when she's like, "Your father would be ashamed of you." Like she believed it, and you could see that in Christian Bale's character too. He shuts down and he goes, "Oh crap, You're right,
That's when he goes and he throws out the gun, and he doesn't use the gun, and I like that. And he's like, no, I'm never going to touch a gun again. I'm never going to, do anything like that again. And I love that.
Yeah,
That is Batman.
Although technically he does touch a grappling gun, a stun gun, guns, but not guns.
Yeah, not bullet guns. He does not bullet guns.
Sorry, I know. I'm the cynical guy that's got to point that out.
Yeah.
Batman didn't kill Ra's al Ghul.
Yes, he did kill Ra's al Ghul. You could save someone, and you don't save them, they're dead.
But that doesn't mean he actually killed him. He said the line, "I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you."
Exactly. So you're telling me that if you can save somebody, and you see they're about to die, and you look at them like, hey, I could save you, but I'm not gonna kill you, you can die.
Batman had to save himself. Batman had to save himself.
A true Batman would have saved him. And he would have came. Hello, guys.
Yeah, we're back again. Anyway, because not only is she just very physically attractive, Katie Holmes, but she's got this the way that she can emphasize her emotions. Like when she was scared during the fear toxin outbreak on the Narrows Arkham Asylum. Like, you could tell she was afraid. She was angry at Bruce. You could tell she was angry at Bruce. And just the way that Katie Holmes' conviction comes off. Like, you could tell she was an assistant DA that wanted to make a change. Mm-hmm. Maggie Gyllenhaal, who felt like, oh, well, okay, I've already done this much. Like, snooty and,
How she walked around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I didn't. And how she was debating between her and Harvey and Bruce and kind of playing the ball. It was kind of, you're right. It doesn't, she doesn't seem as a humble. Or not
as humble or as genuine anymore. Yeah.
She doesn't seem that, like, a district attorney, assistant district attorney. She doesn't seem like that one that's trying to do the right thing anymore. Well, she does do the right thing. I'm not saying she's like a bad person in The Dark Knight, but you don't feel that as much. I feel like.
No, you don't.
I think it comes down to the different interpretations of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know, but I know a lot of
you and I agree that Katie Holmes is better.
Yeah,
so.
we agree. Yeah, so all right. So now, kind of like since we always get into a little bit of a history lessons in here, and since I'm the Batman guy, I guess it's my turn now to be the teacher. I guess
this is where I say good night and good luck.
Yep, get out of here. Now, when this movie was first being made, like before Christopher Nolan ever was kind of involved in this, Darren Aronofsky was
love his work. Wonderful art director.
And honestly, he would have been a perfect guy for today's age. I still say it. If they would have made his movie today's age with the Joker and now the Batman, which I think is taking a lot of inspiration from my personal opinion, I think a lot of audience would have liked it better. But at the time, I get it why the studio was a little nervous, because look where they left off at Batman and George Clooney. They were nervous, and they had every right to be nervous. They wanted to go safe, which is pretty fine. But I feel like with his script, and they had a lot in there, and his script was very different. It was based off of Year One, the comic book Year One, the famous one. I love Year One. It's a very famous comic book.
Classic Batman. Even a regular Batman fan like myself, I'm not as heavy as this guy here. Year One is, it's a cult classic amongst all the fans, but it's also a commercial success because obviously the comic came out, and then I remember the animated movie that came out it's been about a decade now, I believe. Learning from my good friend here that, all the popular Batman commercial success items like the Arkham series video games, that got a lot of inspiration from Year One. Long Halloween.
Yeah, that's another one of them. Yeah.
But
and that's basically what Batman Begins is based off of Year One. Even though it's not Christopher Nolan, he ended up taking, especially to a Darren Aronofsky, his was very different from the comic books of Year One. Mm-hmm. Very different. His was maybe a little bit too different. Like, go into the history of Darren Aronofsky's Year One. It's very interesting. I showed him it before you watch it.
Really, if you get the chance, look into it.
Very interesting. Go look at it. Nolan, Darren Aronofsky's long story short, left the project, and then Christopher Nolan. At the time, Christopher Nolan was just coming off of Insomnia and Memento. Great indie film, great smaller, lower budget films.
Really mess with your mind, too.
Oh, yeah, really mess with your mind. Perfect. It is a perfect kind of, you look at that and be like, that's just like with Matt Reeves now. Yeah. You look at that and be like, that is the perfect kind of person to direct a Batman movie. They hired him to come in, and this is basically his first big blockbuster. And as the story goes, at the time, Christopher Nolan pitched a different movie, a crime thriller that turned into the script for The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it had nothing to do with Batman or anything like that. You looked at it like, that's a good script. But, at the time, Christopher Nolan wasn't what he was now. Mm-hmm. And we're like, but we kind of feel like you would work better as a Batman director. And he's like, Batman? Well, I don't know much about Batman. They're like, well, here's some comics. In Year One was one of them. I think Long Halloween and Killing Joke. Read some of these comics and see what you think. See what you think about it. And he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go look at the comics. And he's like, okay, all right, I see what this is. He starts, puts out his outline, gives it to the studio, and then the studio was like, all right, you want to make Batman? And he's like, all right, yeah, I'll make Batman, but can I make my movie after? It's like, we'll make you a deal. You make this Batman movie for us, and then you can make your movie you want after. And then he made Batman Begins, and originally he just wanted to make just one Batman movie. That's all. He in the Joker tease, I think was more like a studio thing. At the very end of the movie, I think that was more like a studio kind of pushing him. Remember in The Dark Knight, there was no tease of that.
Yeah, there wasn't.
I think that's what it was. It was just like a studio kind of, because there was a little studio interference in this, not as much to the point to where it's like Suicide Squad.
But that tease was awesome. so really perfectly placed.
It was. Then, long story short, Batman Begins was written by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, and then boom, we got Batman Begins starring Christian Bale. The stuff that connects to Year One is like when he kind of how he trains, how he goes off and trains, and when he comes back from Gotham and all that stuff. That's a lot of the Year One inspirations when he comes back from Gotham. I love some of the stuff that, you know, Nolan just came up with, this showing us how he trained in Batman. That is stuff coming from just classic one-shoot Batman comic books that we've seen, you know, one-shoot, paperback, small books, Batman comics of him training, you know, his early years with Ra's al Ghul. And not necessarily Ra's al Ghul, he trained with other ninjas and trainers and all that stuff. He trained with all of them, samurais, you know, he trained it all. And we see that in here, and I like how he puts that in there. It's a little bit of a comic book, you know, fan. As a comic book fan, you're watching that, and you're going like, oh my god, that is... Yes, you're taking something from like a little bit, you know, something from like a little offshoot comic book, and you're putting it in your movie. You're like, yes, you're paying attention. I know that Christopher Nolan wasn't like a Batman fan growing up.
Yeah.
But he at least took the time to study the character, and to go time and read the book.
And I can say
I love that.
As a generic fan of Batman, not like a cult following fan, but this was the movie that helped me become a Batman fan. Because of Batman Begins, because I was just part of that general population that was exposed to the movie. That was the reason I started getting into the comic books more. And it's funny to think how Christopher Nolan, not being the comic book fan, inspired probably a whole new generation of comic book goers because of his take on Batman.
Oh yeah, I feel like he did. I'm pretty sure a lot of people, like you said, that's why a lot think the Nolan verse. Now I know, to me, after Batman Begins, it does go downhill for me, and I know most Batman fans are all Nolan, Batman's Nolan, whatever. I'm not that crazy about Nolan's, you know, after this act, but this Batman Begins. I
understand. Yeah, we've had that talk. Like I said, Dark Knight. We've said that Dark Knight is a great movie. It is a great movie. However, it's not like a true Batman film. It's very allegorical, as you and I said. And then Dark Knight Rises, I want to say it was like picking up pieces. It tries to do the same thing the Dark Knight did, but didn't.
Tries to up the Dark Knight.
Yeah, but couldn't do it. You know, out of all of these three films, gotta go with Batman Begins. But yes, because of him, there's probably a whole new generation that was exposed to Batman.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, you got to give props to Christopher for that. So.
He did, because before this, all we had was George Clooney's Batman.
And then Val Kilmer's and Michael Keaton's.
But Michael Keaton was so down the line, people forgot about Michael Keaton's because it was so far.
It's funny to think because the generation before that, the couple of generations before Batman Begins, were exposed to goofy, lovable Adam West Batman in the 60s, series on TV. That's what I loved about Batman Begins too. It's serious. It's broody. It's dark. It's meant to...
it's rainy.
It's meant to be taken seriously, and that's you can't go wrong with that now in a Batman movie.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. You can. That's it. It revamped Batman because it actually kind of did what the comic books did. Because back in the day, in the comic books, before Year One came out, before Frank Miller wrote Year One, Batman was campy. He was a joke. The DC Comics, they were losing money. They were about being like, what are we gonna do? Like, this character, he's not working. He's not working. And finally, that's when they hired Frank Miller, and Frank Miller came up with Year One and The Dark Knight Returns and The Dark Knight. That's what changed Batman in the comic books. That's what made him serious. That's what made him be like, oh, this dude's serious. That's kind of what laid the groundworks for, and that was what back in the 80s. That was in the 80s. And then that's what laid the groundworks for Christopher Nolan now to kind of do that in the live-action Batman verse, where we were left off with, Val Kilmer, which I personally like. I wouldn't say he's my favorite.
He's gonna get a lot of heat for that.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to get some heat for that, but I want to say he's like my personal favorite Batman. But I have to give Val Kilmer credit, and I feel like a lot of stuff was really studio interference, because Joel Schumacher actually is a big Batman. We're not talking about Joel Schumacher, but long story short, I like Batman Forever. And I feel like Christopher Nolan took that kind of, he was like the live action, version of that with the Batman. He really revamped Batman with Batman Begins. The look of Gotham, I think, is my personal favorite. I do like Tim Burton's Gotham. I think his Gotham is my second favorite. I like his Gotham a lot.
His sense of macabre
Yeah.
Tim Burton's got that. Tim Burton's got that really weird, twisted sense of thinking. No, but Christopher Nolan's made it.
And Batman Begins is my favorite.
It's modern. It's this modern taste of. It looks like, obviously, it's like New York. It's pretty much resembling.
Is it Chicago? Well.
Yeah, because there was a shot that they were like an overhead shot, and I'm like, oh, that actually looks like Chicago.
Nolan's is more based off Chicago.
But you could tell that it's a big city it's corrupt. It's just the whole sense of the movie is you can just sense the corruption throughout it, and that's great.
And like those wide shots, I love, where you see one area it's all rich but big buildings and all that, and then the other area is more dark,
the slums and the narrows,
the narrows, which basically eventually becomes Arkham City, and which I love too. It was kind of a little comic book reference in there.
One of the best video games of all time.
Arkham Origins does not get as much love as it does. It's the look of it all, I think, is beautiful, because to me, with the Nolans, and it loses it in The Dark Knight, because when you go to The Dark Knight, it becomes just straight up Chicago. But in this, it's more. You see that Chicago-ness, but then you also have a little bit of that, like the Narrows, and then the Narrows looks very different, so dark and gloomy, and looks a little bit fantastical, a little bit as that comic bookness. And then you go into the city, into the lower depths, and you see the dirtiness. You see stuff all over the ground. Especially after when the Waynes are dead, you start noticing a lot more how much dirtier it gets, and how much more it could becoming more and more corrupt after the Waynes die.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you see more dirty, and I like that. It feels like a person. Is that Gotham needs. My thing with Gotham, and is not yet to have it, and that's something that this teases a little bit, but loses it. And something I'm hoping Matt Reeves does is that Gotham needs to be a character of itself.
Yeah, heck, they based a whole TV show around Gotham. It's not that premise of it is a place. Gotham is not a person; it's a place. Exactly. But it's that sense of it has a personality of its own. It's a weird description.
Yeah, it's a weird. But you get it. It has its own personality, its own feel to it. That's why it's so much people are attracted to it. That's why Batman has so much love for this city. Is because of that. That's where you get it. Because otherwise, that's something I really love about this. Is this Gotham City of it. Even though it's not the perfect Gotham City, I do appreciate how it is.
Yeah, how it's established.
Tries to go for in the first one at least.
I wanted to bring this up. I know we were going to talk about it, but the one thing I love about this movie is the casting. To me, there is not one bad character in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody is casted perfectly. Christian Bale, while he made me see that Ben Affleck is a good Batman, I do appreciate him more. Christian Bale's Batman will still be forever my favorite, only because it was the Batman that introduced me into the whole, Batman everything. Christian Bale is Bruce Wayne Batman. Katie Holmes is Rachel Dawes. We have Lucius Fox, the god himself, Morgan Freeman. Obviously, Michael Caine, which, he's a god himself, too. Michael Caine is Alfred.
And Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy's in there, who was actually auditioned for
Batman.
And Nolan looked at him, and you look at his auditions, it's online, you guys can look at the auditions online. He's a good Batman, but his Bruce Wayne is a little bit off. But then Christopher Nolan looks at him and goes, you know what? I like you. You have some darkness too. Why don't you play the Scarecrow?
Yeah, Scarecrow. And it's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then Tom Wilkinson is Carmine Falcone.
Yeah.
There was not one bad character placement in this movie. Everybody was casted for their perfect role.
Exactly. You are right. They were casting the perfect role, and they all nailed it.
And also why I feel that this movie did a better casting job compared to Dark Knight. Again, Heath Ledger's Joker is now legendary. It's going to go down in the annals of history. Annal. But he was a good Joker, and he is going to be remembered for that. Other than the remaining cast of people, there was, Morgan Freeman carried over, Michael Caine carried over, but then, Maggie Gyllenhaal. And nobody else from this movie kind of transferred over. I mean, there was Commissioner Gordon. Oh, Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon.
Morgan Freeman. Michael Caine.
But it was, I don't know, the chemistry of Batman Begins was something really, really cool. It was, you could feel.
Yeah, they all had great chemistry. It was a great cast.
And Dark Knight, as I was mentioning to you before the video, Dark Knight really is only remembered, in my opinion, for Heath Ledger's Joker. That's it. To me.
It is. Well, it really, like, honestly, when you ask anybody, what is the memorial things about
the Dark Knight trilogy?
Yeah.
Just overall, the trilogy.
Everyone says, "Oh, Heath Ledger's Joker."
Yeah.
Heath Ledger's Joker, which is good. Okay. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
But that is supposed to be a Batman movie. It's supposed to be about Batman, and that is something that Batman Begins does so perfectly, and why it actually mostly is put there as one of my favorite. One of my favorite goes.
It's a Batman movie.
Yeah,
it is a Mask of the Phantasm.
That is the best. It is the best all around Batman movie, but it is the best live action Batman movie thus far. Again, thus far, best Batman movie because it is a movie about Batman. It's about fear. It's about the psychologically of Batman. You go kind of in Batman's
It's
head.
about how Bruce Wayne. He doesn't change his identity, but Bruce Wayne taps into who he really is,
which is Batman. Batman is a true identity, and Bruce Wayne is the mask, and that's why I always say, in my opinion, Ben Affleck is the best Batman because he goes with that all throughout every interpretation you see of Ben Affleck's Batman. He is that. Go to Christian Bale, which he is like that in the Begins, but then you go in a Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, where it ends with them. Bruce Wayne is the identity.
Yeah,
Batman.
It did that role reversal that it shouldn't have.
Yeah, it shouldn't have.
It shouldn't have.
It should have kept it like that. If it would have kept that, who knows? Maybe Christian Bale would have been one of my favorite Batmans. You know. Love how they do that. Just everything about this movie is a Batman movie, and when you're watching it, and that's like one day when I was sitting down there thinking, like, why is this movie one of my favorite what is my favorite Batman movies? I never thought of that before. And I was like, what is the one I rewatched the most, and then I always reference the most, and I have the most like dialogue that I remember, and scenes I remember that it's Batman, like the look of it, like when he's sitting up on the gargoyles and you see that image.
Oh yeah, that stance and the pan shot across,
the long
yeah.
cape just flapping. It's like Batman Begins. That's what I think of. I think of Batman the animated series and then Batman Begins, and I'm like, yeah, Batman Begins is my favorite Batman movie. It is my favorite. And Dark Knight again, it's a great movie, just not a Batman movie. Yes, Batman Begins does have some of his problems. I mean, there's some stuff in there that gets a little bit cheesy. And, like,
the scene where he blows up the door to the out of Arkham to try to escape through the wall.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and then the two guys just like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Like those little goofy moments. I appreciate that in a movie. Because I mean, again, it's a movie. It's supposed to be an adventure.
Yeah, let it
and
loose a little bit.
Like as you were saying with like the two movies, Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, I feel like they ended up becoming too Christopher Nolan-y. Exactly. You know what I mean? Again, he's a great director.
Right.
Christopher Nolan, you're a great director.
Yeah.
Thank you. But
I love Tenet
because Batman Begins was like a Batman film, and Christopher Nolan, maybe he became too comfortable and realized, oh, okay, well, I got a really good, I got good success out of this movie, so let me now do my own interpretation.
That's what
and
happened.
Again, they're great, but to us, being the fictional fans, like we find fandoms in the actual fiction of things and not other people's interpretations. To what Batman is supposed to be is what we're all about, and that's why Batman Begins.
World, because that's the thing with Batman is the world that he has, and everyone around it, the people. You have to take this stuff seriously. You can't joke around about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And he takes it so seriously in that, and that's what I love about Batman Begins. Is the first time someone takes it seriously, and they take the comic book seriously.
So, another thing that I loved about this movie is because other than Godzilla movies, another passion of mine is horror. I love horror. Anything like silent black and white, talkie black and whites.
Imagine a Batman movie black and white.
Well, remember the serials though,
like a modern black and white.
Like a noir, like a noir kind of Batman.
We are getting a noir Batman, with
not black and white, but like actually, because I love horror movies. I love when horror is incorporated into other genres, because you can incorporate other genres with other genres, and you got to do it right. This Batman does that for me. I know you were going to talk. You were saying how you saw that too. Incorporating things like the side effects of Scarecrow's fear toxin, like seeing the imagery
Nightmares, yeah, but doing it like in a more realistic way.
Yeah, the lighting throughout the whole film, like there's those daytime.
Yeah,
but everything is mostly at night.
Yeah,
everything is in the dark. Yeah. Somehow it's still in the dark, surrounded
it's gloomy,
gloomy
it's dark,
and
it's depressing. Which is for Batman. Depressing is Batman.
Yeah,
and that's what you need. Yeah,
overall, just like seeing how Christopher Nolan and that whole production team incorporated horror into this first one. That's again another reason why I love this movie.
And why I love that Scarecrow. And that's something I do love about this movie too, is that they incorporate two villains that never have been in live action before. And they're smaller villains that probably the general audience don't know. The general audience probably have no idea who Ra's al Ghul was.
Yeah, unless they were comic book people.
Yeah. Or Scarecrow. People probably had no idea.
I only knew of Scarecrow because of the animated series. But it's actually because of this movie that I learned who Ra's al Ghul was. And that's when I started delving into the comic books. I'm like, oh, so this is who he is. Yeah, again, Christopher Nolan doing a cool job in introducing somebody that mass audiences aren't used to before. Exactly. And going back in the acting, Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul.
That's great.
Great casting. Another great casting choice. But
I like that he, for the first movie that he does, he doesn't go with the Joker. He doesn't go with Mr. Freeze. He doesn't go with Bane. He doesn't go with Two-Face.
Mm-hmm.
He goes with Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow, two smaller villains. They did great with that, and
he gave him the spotlight, made him big.
Yeah, made him big. Like what you said. Now we give a Scarecrow with the fear. We have that thing of fear, and then we have that psychological stuff with Batman with Ra's al Ghul, and you put psychological and fear together. That's a good mixture to put as two villains.
Nolan, I noticed he did this. He always has this evil comes in twos kind of mentality. However, in Batman Begins, we did have that third because Carmine Falcone is involved. Yeah. He's kind of like the backbone of like the whole corruption in Gotham, but that's because of him that Ra's al Ghul and Crane were able to incorporate their plan. And then again with Ra's al Ghul, kind of not screwing Crane, but like tricking him to think it's something completely different. Yeah, it's all connecting.
And that's how you do it. That's how you are able to put in a lot of characters in a movie and make it work. You have to find a way to make it.
And then like Dark Knight had Harvey Two-Face Dent. And then Joker, and then with Dark Knight Rises with Bane and Talia al Ghul.
Yeah, it's a good combination of it because you always need. I always said too while watching is that you need Carmine Falcone in an origin.
Yeah, you do need him in a Batman movie.
He's what sets up the events for Batman to become Batman. Mm-hmm. He is the guy that does it. And
Batman is the symbol of justice, while Carmine Falcone is essentially the symbol of Gotham's corruption.
He's not insane. He's not the Joker, but Carmine Falcone, like him being gone, that's the thing. Where you learn in this whole movie, which I really like, is that you see that you knock off one thing, but something worse takes its place.
Yep.
Okay, I cleaned up the corruption. The corruption's cleaned up. Gordon's, more respected cop now and all that stuff, like, we're good. But really, you're just opening a door for something worse to coming out, which is the Joker.
Yep. Last scene with Gary Oldman and Christian Bale on top. And I like how it's funny how even Gary Oldman's like, this guy's got a taste for the theatrics. So essentially also setting up that how Batman and Joker are two sides of the same coin. Yeah.
They really are, because they're both people who had one bad day. And it changed them forever, but one went one side and the other went the other.
It was set up by Batman Begins, which, again, if we didn't have Batman Begins, Dark Knight probably wouldn't be as big of a movie as it is. So I thought, to end off, to cap off what we're talking about here, I came up with my own theory, because I heard it a long time ago, and I also reestablished it. It wasn't mentioned during the scene in the Narrows, where the fear toxin gets released. There was the scene where it was mentioned at the end where half of the inmates of Arkham had escaped and they haven't been caught yet. And it's been many years now, and people have speculated that the Joker in Dark Knight is a PTSD, paranoid schizophrenic military vet.
Yep.
So my theory on what happened is, and then we kind of saw it too, because Victor Zsasz is also in Batman Begins, which is like a nice little nod to the comic. So the people who are really messed up in the head in the Batman universe. So Victor Zsasz being the mass serial killer he is, he's already screwed up.
Himself
so he's not. So essentially, he's not a fearful guy. So it looked like in the movie the fear toxin didn't affect him. You know what I mean? Like he was the one leading the charge. Yeah, he's leading the charge.
It just enhances.
And then, so what my theory on it is that Heath Ledger's Joker was already a character in this movie, and he was an inmate at Arkham, but because of how screwed up he was, because of how screwed up he already was, he was exposed to the fear toxin, and then you and I kind of were like, oh, what if that's what drove him over the edge, and he wasn't one of the inmates that were caught yet, and that's why he was one of the inmates that wasn't caught, because he was able to get exposed to the fear toxin, get driven even madder, and then
that is the real life version of him jumping into the acid.
Yep. So that's why I think like that's a cool theory to like base. Cool. Yeah,
I like that. Now that I'm thinking of it, that is a real.
And because he didn't get caught, he was able to develop into the Joker.
The genius Joker.
Kind of nice how I believe Batman Begins sets that up. It's not mentioned at the Narrows scene, but because obviously Joker and Arkham Asylum go together. And that's another thing. Arkham Asylum has its own personality, just like Gotham. One thinks of Arkham Asylum, they automatically think of the Joker.
Yeah.
So what if that's what that setup was? To me, like I said, Joker wasn't mentioned in the Narrows parts, but it's kind of weird how Gary Oldman mentioned at the beginning of that conversation at the end, where, well, half of the inmates at Arkham have escaped and we haven't caught him yet.
And right when after he says that, he goes, take this guy.
Take this guy, yeah.
Case with the actress, like, when he's talking about how, like, we start wearing Kevlar.
They buy armor-piercing rounds, yeah.
He starts saying how they're topping us. Like, we top them, then they top us. And he goes, And then he says about the inmates going out, and he goes, Take this guy. So there you go, guys. That's basically it, I think, now. That's basically
we covered all of our bases,
of our defense of Batman Begins and why we think Batman Begins is better than The Dark Knight, is a better Batman movie, and probably the best live-action Batman movie
so far. Yeah.
So far until, the Lord Savior Matt Reeves comes. March 4th of 2022. You can't come soon enough. I'm waiting for you. Guys, again, for watching. Now, let me know down in the comment section below. Let us all know down in the comment section below.
Tell me how horrible I look. Tell me how well prepared I am with my clothing apparel. Just tell us how we're doing. I know from the bottom of our heart, we just like doing this. Two buds just, doing something we like together. So, like I said, like, share, and subscribe to this guy's channel.
Yeah, like I said, we always come and do this because it's kind of, we always have these discussions ourselves, through text or just hanging out and stuff like that. And we were talking, like, we both like, talking online or like talking, something.
That's what people like nowadays.
Yeah, it's a new thing nowadays. And we were like, why don't we just start making videos together and talk about it in defense of making a video. So here we are doing this, and we're liking it, and we're liking the reception that we're getting.
So stay tuned. I promise I'll be back. So.
Oh yeah, he's definitely, like I always say before, he's definitely going to be back. We have probably plans. I have a whole list.
You can't have in defense of without this cute little face.
Who knows? Maybe sometimes we'll have a third party member here with us. Sometimes. Who knows? Maybe have some guests on. Maybe. Who knows?
We don't have a lot of friends.
Thank you guys again for watching. As always, we always appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video too. I would always appreciate it. It always helps me out. And stay tuned for next time on our In Defense of. We're not really sure which one we're doing yet, but
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, and we'll be here soon. So, until next time, guys.
Death to Paul Allen.